Let the minutes reflect that we do have a quorum. We have 6 of our 7 members. One decided not to come tonight. He said he was fighting a cold. He hoped. Decided not to come. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes from this month? Anybody have any additions, corrections, changes? I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
President, I make a motion to pass the February 10th minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Good, since you weren't a member at that time. All right. We have a new member tonight, and that was the lady that just spoke, Sue Rempert, who's our newest member.
Nice to see you all.
Sue lives here in town, still live on North Washington.
North, 48 years.
Yep, there you go. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I know a little something about her. My daughter used to babysit with her 2 kids. All right. Thanks for coming, folks. First order of business is under old business. Public hearing, preliminary plat approval to be known as Martin's Corner. 7 lots, 1.9. You got something you want to say first?
Yeah, I'll just kind of introduce the project.
Okay.
This is on Martin Drive. It is 7 lots, actually 6 new homes. 1 is existing. It has gone through our review and our engineer's review, and he has forwarded a recommendation. And I think Dale Cruz from Cruz Consulting here is to
Okay,
make a presentation.
you're on, sir.
Good evening, I'm Dale Cruz, Cruz Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive in Avon. And I'm here this evening on behalf of Dwayne Lane, who's here in the front row with me. And we're here to ask for approval of a 7-lot subdivision plat on Martin Drive. It's in the location of where the Nazarene Church resided for a number of years. It's on about 2 acres. You have that, the aerial we can put up there? It's on about 2 acres. There, in addition to the church, there also is still a single-family home on the property that Dwayne's going to keep on the property. I passed out, when I got here, I passed out to all of you the plan set, probably the easiest sheet in that set of plans for you to read or to look at is sheet number 4. And it shows, sheet 4 shows the 6 new home lots, and it shows the existing home lot. The existing home is basically in the very southwest corner of the lot, and you'll see it on the picture as a crosshatched area. So this is in an R2C zoning district. So the way the process works is Lisa will, or the staff will, and Lisa, if you tell me if I'm wrong, but for the home construction, the staff will pick from 4 different styles of homes that Dwayne will have to build from. But I can tell you this, that Dwayne's preference would be to build a minimum of an 1,100 square foot home, which is what the R2C zoning requirements requires, and a 3-bedroom, minimum of a 3-bedroom home, minimum 2-bath home, and a minimum 2-car garage. And all of them would be single-story homes. That's what his preference would be. And then of what the town would come up with for style, then that Dwayne would match with the town's required style with those commitments that he would like to commit to.
Architectural element is because the property is zoned R2C. So anything that's built in the R2C district has to match what's in the 2-block radius or block radius. So what we do is we go out and identify the type of homes within that area. And then the Plan Commission generally selects from whatever we come up with for. So we can either do that, this is just preliminary at this point, so we can do that.
Similar to what we did last month.
Right.
On, Jefferson.
Jefferson, yes, it'd be the same situation.
So do you have the aerial, the one that says beacon aerial? Wanted to start with. That's okay. So this is our 1.9 acre site. Right here is the existing home that remains. And then this church, there's the church area and parking lot that's now gone. It's been torn down. And then there's Martin Drive, and then right up there at the very top is the intersection with Main Street. And then if you can go back to that plan set you had there, and then go to the one that at the bottom right, I think it says sheet C4, that one. Yeah, keep going. The one in the bottom right, it'll say C4. Okay, so this picture, this is Martin Drive, and there's the loop of Martin Drive right here. There's the existing home. There's the 6 homes that are proposed, and then they each have driveways that come out onto Martin Drive. Those are proposed to be private drives, so they would not be maintained by the town. And then back here in this corner is our detention. This is our detention area right here, which would be to the east of the existing house. So for reference, this is the bend in Martin Drive right here. So it's be just north of the bend in Martin Drive. That's where the detention area would be. This detention area would be proposed to be what we call a dry detention pond. So it would be grass, a mix of grass and stone in the bottom of it. Actually, there's a photograph on there also. It would be an example of, it was the third PDF on that, in that directory. It would be an example of a dry detention pond that Dwayne just built last fall on a project. Actually, it's on the next project you're going to hear tonight. It's where it came from, but there we go. So this is what the dry pond, this is an example of what a dry pond would look like. So this would be the bottom of the pond, and then this right here, we have a clean water requirement. So here, so this stone area, it's almost like a, some people would know it as a French drain, but this is a rock bed that's 18 inches thick. Water filters through that and then makes its way. You can barely see it right there. So there's a path of that where that rock goes out to this control structure. So this structure right here is what regulates how fast that the water exits this detention pond. That it all runs through this right here. So this would fill up during a rain, and it would be gone when, after it quits raining, it would all exit out through this stone, and it would be gone. So we call it a dry pond because it's dry basically all the time, except for when it's raining. So this similar type of a pond would be, it's not exactly that shape because this one's a triangle, but it's very similar to this concept, is what would be in the southeast corner of this particular piece of property. So,
Outfall goes into an 18-inch that goes where?
it goes east. It's already there.
And it's underground. It's not above ground.
Correct. Yeah, and that's an existing pipe that we'd be connecting into.
Does this have sidewalk access, this particular one?
This does not. Well, we can go back to the that sheet C4. So there currently are not sidewalks on Martin Drive. So we'd have sidewalks to nowhere if we had sidewalks. So we have not proposed any sidewalks as part of this petition.
Well, you've got that drawing up there. Wayne, the property that you own is over on where Barry used to live.
Right there,
Is it right there?
right there.
I know there was someone had a concern about getting a footpath. People, for kids could walk out to that street. What is it?
Scarce,
Pierce? Okay.
yeah. Searcy,
Right.
depends on who you talk to and what you call it.
Pierce?
Yeah.
Know where it's at, but what I'm concerned about is try to do that there with that.
I think it's a problem too, and that's why we don't show that on here, because I don't think
Yeah.
that's the place to do
I
it
just don't think that'll work.
either.
I mean, hey, it was dry,
Right.
but kids. Anyway,
I agree.
Is this the one, if you do have a sidewalk, you gotta go over private land?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
or an easement, I don't know how wide you'd have to take it, but you'd want to do it on two property lines. So
All reasons why we don't have one shown.
Why was a gravel drive opted for versus asphalt or concrete?
Well, simply for cost. It was pointed out to us at the TAC meeting that the town will require these drives to be asphalt or concrete, which Dwayne has agreed to commit to.
So the central drive would be asphalt or concrete?
Correct.
That's kind of a new, it was added to our subdivision control ordinance that new drives, I know we have a lot of drives in town that are gravel, but any new developments would be required to have either concrete or HMA, hot melt asphalt pavement. So it is a requirement. We did bring that up to them, so.
It's also in Walt's letter, also in Walt's recommendation for approval. He mentions that in that letter also.
Yeah. And I'll speak for the drainage here. I think this is going to be a big improvement. I lived at that house, and we had back in 2000 and, I want to say 2003, 2004, 2005, I came home and had 2 inches of rain in my kitchen. There's a structure in the rear, basically where you're taking your pipe to, but if it gets leaves on it, it backs water up everywhere. So I'm an advocate for this type of detention because it slows the release rates going into that 18-inch pipe. Is it safe to say that within 24 to 48 hours, this water would be gone out of that dry bed?
Yes.
Okay. So the drainage thing is a big deal in that area, not only in this area, but, and I also want to say, have you done any calculations post-impervious service versus pre?
So the drainage ordinance makes us compare pre and post, and that's how the sizing of the detention ponds is about that.
Okay, so when the church was there, is it safe to say that we probably are equal to or less than the impervious surface that was there prior to this
I think we're
development?
probably slightly more, but we're not considerably more.
Okay.
With respect to the dry bed, the grassy areas, is that going to be a new planting with sand and gravel underneath it? And only the gravel at the rectangle you showed?
So our goal would be to dig out where the rock goes, dig almost like a swimming pool, basically, fill it with rock, and then that's outside the rock would be to dig it only to the elevation that it needs to be at and seed it with new grass seed and erosion control blankets to hold it in place.
So there would be gravel under a larger area than is shown in gravel there?
No, ma'am.
Only the gravel area there is
Is-
shown, and it's to 18 feet,
18 inches about.
18 inches, okay.
But outside of that, there won't be any gravel underneath the,
Under the grass.
no. Yes.
into the gravel, and then the tile carries the water away so that you're just not dependent on the tile, or on the gravel carried away. The tile assists that, so it's directed into that structure he talked about, and then into the pipe. So that's the way the system works. So it's not just gravel, it's gravel plus the tile. That's what makes the system work.
Thank you.
So in this example right here, which is a similar scenario to what we'll have at this property, embedded in that stone is a network of tile, it's like a field tile out in a farm field, that connects underground into this. This structure right here is approximately 2 feet deeper than where you see right there where the concrete structure intersects the grass. It's about 2 feet deeper, and the tile comes in there, and then it evacuates to the creek.
So with that being said, I did a quick calculation. What would be the maximum depth of water in that dry detention before it went into the overflow? I know we had some questions. Somebody came in and had a question about that. And I wanted to say that it was less than 2 feet.
Above the stone,
Yes, from the stone to the invert of that overflow.
Up to the podium, please. We can't hear you unless you speak into the microphone.
91 East Main Street, Danville. We've been doing these ponds like this. We did our first one about 4 years ago. And again, the 100-year flood or whatever it is they're figuring on is when water be in there. We are yet to get a pond that's been built like this, and we built several of them, that there's been water above the stone. And Dale calls me about every time we get a heavy rain, he's like, is there any water above the stone? It's
Yeah.
like, nope, sorry. So, but that is a really good, efficient way. I mean, we would have to have a huge rain, I think, because we had some really good rains in the last 4 years to actually elevate that up to that hole in this pond, in that pipe, or in the concrete structure.
Yeah, and I can second that as well. I just wanted, for the record, to be the maximum depth that could be possible before it went over, because according to the building codes, once you get over 2 feet, that's considered a pool. There was some concern about having guardrails along the street so that they wouldn't enter that. So I just want to make so that everybody's comfortable and clear on the maximum water that could be in there. I've never seen it that high either. But I think they came up with less than 2 feet, but we'll see how
that's
good
right
my
out
math
to,
is.
I think, if I look at the contours on this picture right here, it's about 2 feet
Okay.
from the overflow down to the stone elevation.
It depends on where you
Take
take
that measurement.
that measurement. Looking at the cross-section in the plans, the cross-section average shows 1.75 feet,
Okay.
okay? So it varies, but the average would be, 1.75 feet.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So Dale, if the drive is a private drive and not maintained by the town of Danville, what about the mowing of the grass?
Same. It's done by Dwayne. It's done by the owner of the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Have any questions? Anything else you want to say?
I'm good. Thank you.
Since this is a public hearing, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. If you have something to say, please come up. Give your name and your address and say what you have to say. Now, remember, this is a preliminary plat, so we don't need to get into any zoning issues or anything like that. That's already been dealt with. So, somebody has to be first. Okay.
I'm Ronnie Atnip. I live at 109 Martin Drive, and I'm the one that wrote the letter about the foot traffic.
Okay.
And I'd like to see where the kids could ride their bicycles, and Martin Drive is just, goes in, goes out, and the only
Right.
access you got's Rockville Road. So I'd still like to see something done.
Oh,
You didn't promise, but you said you could. You did say you could. So you could make a path over.
The property is just south, I'm sorry. The property that I own is the property just south of the property, so the southeast corner and the southwest corner of the property on Taylor are connected, so they're not straight through. So I'd have to talk to Gus and see how he feels about that.
Well, I don't know.
I think,
I'd just like to see that worked out,
This
because
area right here, this is the corner. So they corners touch.
So you own the first house? Yeah.
no, I'm down at the other end of the street. That's okay. But no, there's a lot of kids, and my son even had the problem when he was little. You can't go out of Martin Drive without going across somebody's property or going out on a highway. And kids got bicycles and walking and stuff, and you can't get out on you can't go anywhere.
No sidewalks right there.
And there's no sidewalks, and if you could just have like some kind of an easement over there. It doesn't have to be big enough to ride a ATV through, but just enough to walk and ride your bicycles through. That's my problem.
I lived there in that house, and I know there was a lot of foot traffic that came through my driveway right there in that spot.
Even
so-
though they were not invited.
Even though so I could see that maybe being a problem down the road unless there was an easement. And I don't know that I've ever heard of an egress easement for a sidewalk. Walt? Okay.
It can
So,
be done, yeah.
yeah,
But I'm just saying,
right.
but I just think it would be nice, like I said, it's a loop, you can't get out anywhere, and that's gonna add more people still.
Been like that since when? 1950-something?
Yes, I wish Harold Martin was here and I could speak to him, but he's not.
If
I
I
guess that's
could,
where the Martin name come from, huh?
if I could add something, since we're talking about sidewalks, the town is currently in the beginning stages of doing a sidewalk plan, pedestrian plan, trail plan, and hopefully what will come out of that is the connection on Main Street, because there are areas where there are sidewalks and there's spots where there are not. So hopefully that can be addressed, if not tonight, it can be addressed in the near future.
It doesn't have to be cement. It can just be a gravel where they could ride their bikes and they could walk over to Taylor Court and then go on into town, without having to go out on the highway. That's my suggestion. So, he did say.
Okay, next.
Mark Allen at 25 Martin Drive, which is basically straight past the property, about 3 houses down. I'm not opposed to what we're doing here today. There's some things I'd like to see Dwayne do, just from cosmetic standpoint. The parsonage, he put a new driveway in and it's gravel. I'd like to see that paved at the same time, along with the street. But other than that, it's cosmetic things that R2C requires the houses to be like. There are vinyl houses in the neighborhood, there are brick houses in the neighborhood, there are stone houses in the neighborhood. So we'd like to follow along with that, and I want to make sure, reiterate, the neighborhood does not want multi-story houses in this area, because there are none. The only ones that are on 36 itself. So we want to make sure that it stays 1-story, 2-car garage. Other than that, that's fine.
Good evening, Tammy.
Good evening. Tammy Dooley, 20 Martin Drive. I live directly across the street from the property that we're talking about. I'm at the corner of the Yield. If you go around the Yield and you run the Yield sign, you run into my front yard. So, I just have questions for Dwayne. Where's the mic?
I can hear you pretty good.
Me, but he has to answer me. Yes, good idea. And I've been designated as a spokesperson to ask questions.
I'll do my best.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding, the first question they wanted to ask was, were these going to be rentals or were these going to be sold as individual homes? But since it sounds like you'll be maintaining the property, that they'll be rentals.
There'll probably be rentals to start, yes.
Okay.
What he intends, and I don't doubt his word, eventually, forward. So at some point in time, dead and gone, these houses.
I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's clear to everybody.
Yes, sir. The other question was, we already talked about the sidewalk through. My concern is in the last 6 months, 7 months, we've had people running through there and damaging things. Someone got in our truck, pulled out David's honor guard hat, gloves, and we found it over by where the damn trees are. Our car registration, our insurance information. Your tenant got his window butt kicked off his truck. Found it 10 feet from it with footprints on it. So kids are running through, and we know it's kids. So my concern is if we put a walkway through there, I would like to see light, something to show I don't know how to control bad behavior, but bad behavior is taking place, and it's been taking place. Kids cut through there and they do that. So drainage issue. The drainage issue starts out with Catholic Church and runs through my property, and it becomes nearly in my house. So I just want to make sure the drain that goes across the street, all that has been filled in by dirt or something. You said you're gonna be working on that, right, Barry?
Yes, right there on the corner.
Yeah, all that needs to be dug up and redone.
And
'cause it's filled in.
Dwayne and I have had a conversation about making sure that pipe gets around to the retention area, right on that radius.
Yeah, because it's a
across
river
from-
runs through it. You know what happens.
I've seen it firsthand, so I definitely understand.
It's
but I
it's
believe
been about a
this will
half inch
help.
from coming and breaching my house, and I can't get flood insurance because we don't live in a floodplain.
That's correct.
So, anyhow, start date. Do we know a start date? An idea? Is it going to be this summer, this fall, this spring?
I would like to complete the project this summer, yes.
Awesome. Be done. And I didn't get to see them beforehand. They have garages.
Yes.
We wanted to make sure they had storage, and we talked about the fence around the pond already. Check, check, check. All my checks are done. That wasn't bad, was it?
Easy questions.
Is anybody else going to talk to Dwayne? Yeah.
Jackie Wood, 2431 West Highway US 36, but we also own 8 Martin Drive. And my concerns are the kids getting off the bus because they get off of the bus in the evening on Highway 36. And there is no sidewalks. So with more traffic, you have kids that are more susceptible of danger. Because like you said, it's narrow and there's no place for the kids to go.
Thought the bus went down, Martin.
Does in the morning. It won't, because they can't get out in the evening, so they don't come down there in the evening. So, that was my concern.
For the little kids. The
Especially.
bus comes around, but the big kids, they don't.
That was my concern.
I'm not aware what the buses.
So I'm just saying that there is no safe, if you're renting, it's gonna be a 3-bedroom home, it's gonna have children, so they're gonna have to get in and out of that area. Is there a possibility of a sidewalk somewhere through there, so they can safely get back home?
I mean, that's not my property to put you're talking about from Main Street in? Yeah, that's not our property.
I think that's maybe more of a kind of town issue as opposed to
okay.
these 6 or 7 homes.
I think that's what Lisa was talking about when she was talking about comprehensive sidewalks. They're
Right.
gonna take evaluation where the
Yes.
kids are walking.
Right.
With the idea of having sidewalks on Main Street all the way.
That's correct.
Through.
And that's also in the states, that's the state's jurisdiction, so we would have to work closely with NDOT to try to get sidewalks put in. The town wouldn't even be able to just go in and do it without permission. So,
That answer my question.
I'm Sally Fry. I'm at 29 Martin Drive. Mr. Lane, I have a question for you. Do you plan on adding any storage onto the parsonage house? A garage, a shed, anything like that for your renters there to store their items in?
Well, we haven't been able to do anything there currently because we've been in the process of this, so we will do something there. I'm not for sure what at this moment.
Okay. Around the dry pond, I realize it's a dry pond. Kids are still going to go into that, ride their bikes, run through it. Can we get a barrier around that to prevent the children going through it or cars going into it? Even though I know there's a house close by, there's still kids that go crazy in that neighborhood. To prevent them from going into this and injuring themselves or injuring the property.
I don't even know what type of fence you would put around it, I mean, to be honest with you.
Something you can look into, even if it's a small barrier. Because my guess, my feeling is, having raised my 4 children in this neighborhood, I know how kids like to explore. And they will find that absolutely fascinating to begin with. And they'll be riding their bikes through the dirt or through the rocks. They will fall, they will get injured. Who's going to be liable for those injuries? You or their parents?
Probably both.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I would like to see some sort of barrier put around that through the whole process. Minimum, I don't care what the height is, just some sort of barrier locked so the kids cannot get in there. It's all about the safety for the children in that neighborhood, which is being compromised anyways with the additional houses going in. Thank you.
What is the size of that pond?
It's about 100 feet east-west by about 50 feet north-south.
Talking about 300 lineal feet. Talking about putting a barrier up or a fence up.
Yeah. Depending on where you put it outside the bank, because it's going to be bigger than that on the banks.
Anybody else?
John Roberts, 16 Martin Drive. Since you're going to own that street, I think you're going to plow the snow in the winter?
They'll be on their own driveways to Martin Drive, so there won't be a street.
Thought there was 2 houses facing Martin, and the other 4 was going to face like head towards the.
There is, but they have private drives all the way out to Martin Drive.
Oh, so it's just going to be long driveways?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what about the trash service? They're going to put all their trash out in front of my house?
I would assume they would put it at the end of the drive. I'm not, they're responsible for removing their own trash, so I'm assuming they'd have a trash can.
No, but what about race coming through there, are they, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that means they're all going to put, since I'm right across the street, does that mean all that trash is going to be in front of my house, right across the street from my house, before trash service gets there?
I would assume so, yeah. They'd be at the end of the drives.
All right.
Was the trash on both sides of the street now? They come in?
Yeah. So if he's going to build 6 houses right there. Okay, sorry. What I'm getting at is, if he's building 6 houses there, okay, how, there's at least 6 trash bags out, I mean, you know there's gonna be more than 6 trash bags, especially if it's gonna be a 3-bedroom, it's like they said earlier, kids, so you're gonna.
Should be in their driveway, right in the end of the driveway.
But that's what I mean, they're going to have to put it all out at Martin Drive. You see what I'm saying? Yeah,
Step up here.
he's saying
He's saying there's,
He's
he
saying
said
these are
there's
driveways.
6 driveways. It's not. It's these 4 houses do this driveway.
I'm listening.
This one comes out here and this one comes out here. John is concerned about these 4 houses piling their trash all right here.
Sorry, I missed it.
Otherwise, the trash truck has to back down this driveway, get the trash. Same thing with the mail. Mailboxes typically will probably be all out here because the mail won't want to come out. These 6 mailboxes out here on the street. Right now, all the houses have mailboxes on their houses. There are no mailboxes. That was the concern, is traffic going into these 4 houses. 2 cars per house, that's 8 cars in and out of here every day, and all the trash being set right here. John's house is right here. That's what he's concerned. They're not, these do not have individual driveways.
I just seen a raccoon the other day, so that means all that trash will be out in my front yard.
How wide's that medium in the center of that driveway?
Not. It'll look like one drive.
There's no medium.
There's a little one shown, but essentially it won't be there.
Could I clarify something? When they came in and they were showing all of the gravel drives, we asked that instead of having 4 individual drives coming out onto Martin Drive, to make it one paved drive, so that it wasn't, I mean, it just seems to make sense to do that instead of having 4 separate driveways come out onto Martin Drive. And then will likely have to have some sort of a maintenance agreement and something for the shared drive so that they can all access that. But they all do have individual, technically, their lots go out to Martin Drive.
Okay.
So I don't know if that clears that up, but
Can you fix it somewhere where they can all set their trash? Like in the middle of that, however wide that driveway is, there at the end. That way we don't have it scattered all out across the front.
I would think they would set it just to the side in the grass or whatever, because they could use the drive, but we could put a concrete pad out there for them to set their trash cans on when they want to keep their trash cans in at their house, except for whenever they're on trash day.
Yeah. So they know they have a dedicated place to set them. Hopefully that's where they set them. Workable?
Yeah, you can put a pad there. Not a trash receptacle area, just a pad for them to set their trash can on.
Understand. So the mail, is it, the mail truck come in there and stop and then he walks the route? Where are your mailboxes? On the houses in?
They will be where the postmaster of Danville asked me to put them.
Understand.
We always go and ask them.
And the right heights too.
If they're walking, normally if they're walking the neighborhood like this, they'll ask us to put them on the house. And then if not, they'll tell us where they want them on the street. And they have detailed of how they want them, where they want them.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you come up to the mic, please?
know-
Can you come up to the mic, please?
This was just a question. You know, like he said, like this guy said, those houses can be sold. They can be sold at some time. But who's gonna maintain all that? I know you're gonna have them rented, and probably I'm gonna be dead before you ever sell them. But who's gonna maintain all that pond and that drainage and, years from now? Is that part of the town?
That is not part of the town. That's a private detention that will be maintained by the property owner that owns that pond.
So who owns it?
The property owner at 17 Martin, which is the existing house, will always own that area.
Will always own it?
Yep.
So whoever lives at 17 Martin Drive is gonna have to maintain that?
Correct.
Oh, okay. So if you ever sell that off, that's part of his deal?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. The public hearing portion of this is over. So anybody up here have any questions that came up while we were listening?
I do have one question for Dale. Is this drive inverted? I know we talked about that a while, to get the drainage down the driveways to that swell that's gonna be on the east end. Will
It'll be
these?
flat. This is
Okay.
basically gonna be flat, because it drains from.
It sheets that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Dwayne, how big is the parsonage house that was already on that property?
I don't know for sure. I would guess that it's about very large, pretty large house, probably 1,500 square foot, but it's whole, top and lower.
What was your plans to, you say it's a gravel driveway?
17 Mark Drive does have
About to not make, I mean, doing away with the gravel and put rear blacktop? What'd you think about
I think that, a little bit unusual request, but I think that seeing the new lot and the new lots require gravel.
it? Any other questions? Okay. Have anything? So, our responsibility is find that piece of paper. We have three things that we can do. We can approve the preliminary plat request, approve preliminary plat request with conditions, or deny the preliminary plat. So I guess we do have some conditions that we have talked about and he agreed to. Let's go over them real quick of what they were. One of them is, you agreed to put rear blacktop driveway on 17. The other one was in the middle of a pad for the trash. Okay. What else?
No two-story,
No two-story,
two-car garage.
car garage.
Is there an anti-monotony? I guess we'll address the anti-monotony. Are we doing anything like that? Different color, different elevation for houses across the street and side by side? Is that something
Does that come up in your review? Does that come up in your?
that's
When
what
we
I'm
do
asking.
the assessment of the area to
So-
find out what architectural designs are in that
Because I don't know that the R2C addresses that.
area. I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that talks about anti-monotony.
I answered my own question. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
That means that would mean that no two houses could look the same if that were in the ordinance. If you have an anti-monotony clause. We do not.
Red, green, blue, red, green, blue.
No green.
You sure? Okay.
We didn't come to an agreement on what we can do about getting a walkway through there. I would like to have that in there, that it'll be looked into and see if we can't come up with something that's reasonably workable with all parties to get something like that.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that I don't think it's possible. Because of the configuration of how Dwayne's property that he owns where Barry used to live, the fact that it's coming next to the pond, the fact that we already heard somebody say that they have trouble with vandalism. I think there are a lot of reasons why a sidewalk through east to west through here doesn't make sense.
Well, I think that puts a lot of burden on whoever's going to own that sidewalk, because in the town, we do a shared cost. And that's not going to be a public walk, is my, if there's an easement, that easement's going to have to be dedicated to the town, and I don't know if the town is interested in maintaining an offside, out of right-of-way sidewalk, I think it's a bad idea. I think the better way to go would be to somehow get connectivity on East or West Main Street and get it down Martin Drive so that they have a way to get around instead of going through private property. Bad things happen when you get youngsters going through private property, and animals, you know, they can get bit. I just think it's a bad idea to try to do that through private property. That's my opinion.
Anything else? Okay, folks, I would, enter. Pardon? But no, they didn't agree to do that, but we can look into that, right? Because I don't see any way that a vehicle could get in there unless they could, coming from the south on Martin Drive. I guess they could.
It'd be, and we talked about this, we had one of the property owners come in and okay. I've gone through this a few times in other places, and if it's not a retention pond, it is not required. If it's a detention pond, the question comes in is how much water is that gonna hold? And that's why I went to the 2-foot thing, and I think, worst case scenario, there will be some water in the bottom of that pond, but I don't even think it's gonna be deep enough, because I've watched this enough that when that water hits that stone, it's gone. I think if we do have a problem, it's gonna be downstream that backs up into that pond, and I think at that point, it's an issue of drainage downstream instead of that detention pond. So I don't know, I completely get the concern, but I don't know if it's warranted or not to put a fence around it, because also when you put a fence around things, they're harder to maintain. You got to have access to, maintain that pond. So I'm not, I'm not completely sold on any kind of barrier around there. I don't think it's possible if you're willing to look into it and come up with something, then I think that would help the concern of the residents in the area just on that corner. If it's about vehicles or if it's about children, I think, the reality is that we can't always manage what children do, and I think that's up to the parents to maintain those children and making sure. But so I think that's kind of an either-or question for me, Tommy. I think the reality is, I think if we put a fence in there, it's got to be maintained, and then, you're adding a lot of load on that person that owns 17. If it ever gets sold, they got to maintain a pond, now they're going to maintain a fence, and they got to maintain their property. That house will sit empty. There's too much to maintain.
Dwayne, of the other 4 retention ponds similar to this, are any of the others in a residential or populated area?
Not in a neighborhood. They're all commercial properties.
Okay.
Dwayne, is there one located at the Lincoln and Mackey project?
There is a pond there that was, I'm guessing, was updated in '93 when they built the 2-story building. And we're actually currently getting ready to, I think we're getting ready to convert that one to a dry pond like this. One of the situations you're having, you'll see them all over the place when they've done a lot of dry ponds. The one at Lincoln Square there is one of them that that pond is not, you can't maintain it because, well, I should say you can't maintain it. We maintain it by weed eating every 2 weeks, that pond. Most people don't spend the money to do that, and they grow up in cattails and that kind of stuff and create other problems, create drainage issues through there. With a pond like this, we can mow that. We've not had any problems with mowing them all the way to the gravel and maintaining them so that they look nice ongoing. When they mow, they just mow it.
That one does not have a fence, if that's where you're going with that question. It's not. That one does not have a fence.
No, it doesn't. It is in a neighborhood, but it is a dry pond, but it's not a new one with stone in the bottom like that, but we plan on transforming it into that.
So this pond would not grow up in cattails like you've seen in other areas?
Correct. It can be short of something that I've never seen, we'll be able to mow right down to the gravel. on a weekly basis as we mow. And so, they end up looking better longer because you don't have all the issues that you have with a pond that is got a grass bottom that they'll get, I use the word swampy, where you can't even get down in them.
It looks like that picture. That is one of his ponds.
Yeah, and as far as being an eyesore, if you have under drains in it, cattails like water. They usually don't grow in places that don't have a lot of standing water. So when you have that stone and the under drain in there, there's really there's nothing there for them to, I won't say they won't. I've seen everything, but I can tell you from my experience that you won't have those cattails and weeds with the stone under there, but they typically drain well. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
So did you write down those conditions?
I did. They're gonna look into the fence. Is that what we finally came up to that, but it's not a requirement of the project.
Can I ask a question, just because I'm kind of clear on what we're talking about here, because I'm a little confused? Are they talking about putting a fence like up from Gus's property over, like up on the Martin so kids can't get into the pond? Or are they talking about actually putting a fence around the pond?
I think that would be a question best asked to the,
Because I think
to the
there were
residents.
sheep draining water into that pond, so I would think that a fence, if we did a fence of some sort, it'd be up the property line or up that area.
Originally, I thought it was just to keep vehicles or something out of there. Is that the
It was my understanding to keep kids out of there, to keep anyone.
We'll look at it, if a fence is feasible or not,
Okay.
but certainly not commit to that.
Because some of this sheet drains down
It
on to
does.
that, and if we put a fence there, we're gonna have buildup there and it's not gonna drain properly. I think that's what we're looking at.
We don't,
And what Barry was saying and what Tammy was saying is there's a lot of water coming off that church is coming through there that we're gonna catch and slow down.
so
And we need a
understand,
clean shot to it.
we're not going to correct the church's drainage problem.
Not
This
the
does
Catholic
not-
church.
This does not fix the drainage. of the church.
Absolutely.
The church
Absolutely.
is its own deal.
And I think they're just making sure that it doesn't, they're asking to make sure it doesn't affect them on the other side. Because you're downstream from the neighbors.
Right.
On-
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Walt.
So the church that they're talking about is the St. Malachi Church that's to the west.
Yep.
And there's a lot of drainage that comes off of that church that's west of our site. And we will not fix that problem.
And they're
Yes.
not far from large station to the
Correct.
church, which we could correct, they could correct their drainage.
They will have to address the drainage, yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay.
We have addressed the drainage on our site. And we have managed the drainage on our site through that detention pond.
But whatever they do over there, they're not supposed to put any more water off their property than.
Their addition is sufficient. Review.
It will.
And review, they don't have.
And what they're proposing will require
think
drainage
so.
review. Yeah.
Well, they're tearing down the little building and then building
You're
new.
outside my area.
Yeah.
So if she says it's big enough to require, it, that's good enough.
And all I'm saying is that we can't fix their problem.
Yeah, I understand. Glad it was that church and not ours, south of it. Ours kind of runs the other way. It kind
But you have the same design. It's got an under drain in it.
Yeah.
It's the same design, a little bit smaller scale.
The only
So
time it doesn't work well is when the leaves get over the grate.
I hear that. I've been there. Know all too well. So
Okay.
you want to go over them again, just to be clear? So, trash can pad, the driveway on 17 Martin Drive, and then inquire about a fence or some kind of barrier.
Add for trash,
That's the track, you got that.
no two-story, two-car garage.
We'll have think, well, R2C doesn't say you can't build
Dwayne's-
So this is,
He said he won't.
No plans for a two-story? Okay.
Nope.
Perfect.
with that in mind, I would entertain a motion. Approve the preliminary plat request as submitted, approve it, plat request with conditions, which we have, or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat approval with the following conditions: trash can pad, driveway at 17 Martin Drive, and look into a fence, and no two-story homes. Did that catch everything?
Two-car garage.
And all residents must have two-car garage.
Right,
So that's my motion.
okay. We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Barry, roll call, please.
Mr. Pato? Approve. Ms. Rimpert? Approve. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer?
Aye.
Mr. Sheets?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dale.
Spread it there.
I'm sitting down here by him.
You guys are gonna get it. He's gonna get it.
In the sleeve.
Kiss him.
In the sleeve. Yeah. Just like the rim.
Civil?
Bigger nerd than me.
Actually, no.
You got it? I don't mind.
Okay, you guys ready? You got your paperwork sorted out? You got the new one?
How about, do the aerial one first.
Okay. Item B, public hearing site plan review. Approval of Pig Lot. Where'd you come up with that name? I know it used to be one, that's right.
There's a big lot, and I said,
Yeah.
you know, I said this kiddingly. Big lot.
LLC Phase 2, located on the south side of County Road 75, west of County Road 200 east.
This is a second phase. I don't know if you recall back in the fall, they came in with the first phase of this project, and this is now the second phase. Forward. You have your case summary in your packet. There are a few comments. We did not have any remonstrators on this project. The town engineer has given his approval as well. And Dale is here to present the project.
So again, for the record, I'm Dale Cruz, Cruz Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive in Avon, and here we are on behalf of Dwayne again, and he's sitting here with me still. So this project, just so make sure everybody's clear where we are, this is the road that goes up to IMI, the IMI plant in Green Cycle. This road is one that goes east-west through, the landfill is right over here on 100, County Road 100 East. And I don't know why I couldn't highlight that parcel. I tried, but I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to make it highlight. So Dwayne actually, he bought these two parcels here first, and then he bought this parcel. This parcel is the one that had the pig lot on it, and I told him after this came up, don't ever do that again, because I got 2 calls from people that thought he was putting a pig lot here. Because our letters said pig lot. So we're gonna rethink names in the future, make sure we're not misleading, because then I just
You
get to
know
deal with
whether
it.
people are actually paying attention or not.
I had 2 of them. So anyways, I handed out a picture when we first, right before we started. And that picture is an aerial photograph that was taken, I think it was taken early this spring, just looking at what I see in that picture. It had to have been taken early this spring, and that is this first phase that's right here. These grain bins are gone. This this barn's gone. This barn's gone. And that picture is this triangle. And you'll see in that picture this building right here is built. Building right here that's built, and there's a building along this side over here that's built. There's 3 in that picture. I think there's 3 in that picture that are built. And what Dwayne has learned in the last couple of years is that a lot of people have a lot of stuff that they want to store in a lot of places. And so that building, Dwayne and I went on a field trip last Thursday. That building that's on that west property line is 100% rented. Building that's on the east property line is 100% rented. And the building that's the one that runs east-west, which was the last one that was built, is about a third rented. So there's a need for what service Dwayne offers, and he's filling it. And so because of the success he's had here and on 200 South Cartersburg Road, also in New Winchester, which on 36 West, going towards Heritage Lake, kind of, still in Hendricks. And then another one at 200 West, just west of the high school. Those 4 projects led him to believe or understand that there's a need for what we're here this evening to ask for approval of, which is the second phase of this property, which is this triangle right here, basically. So for comparison's sake, what was approved on the photograph, there's on that photograph, there are 3 buildings. There are 6 approved. So there's 3 buildings to go that haven't been built there yet. And those 6 buildings will equate to about 85,000 square feet of storage area. And on page 4 of the plan set that I gave you, you'll see the site plan, which if you could go to that one, that would be helpful to see that now. I think it's 4.
It is 4.
We'll see it as you. There we go. Let's do that one. Okay, so the photograph is this area right here. That's the building in the picture. That's the other building in that photograph, and this is the third one in that photograph. So the 3 that aren't built are this one, which is next to come soon, and then these 2 right here. So the proposal before you this evening is we are here to ask for approval of this triangle right here. Right there. So this area here equates to about 85,000 square feet of storage on about 6 acres. This area right here is about 90,000 square feet of storage on about 10 acres. So they're similar in size and scope. This area is a little bit bigger, mainly because it's this triangle area and it requires bigger detention pond area. But the idea is they would be fairly similar. This one has 7 buildings, and the reason is because this building right here is very large, and these are not quite as wide, so it takes 7 buildings to get a similar square footage to what we have over here. But the other thing that Dwayne has learned as he's been getting into this self-storage arena is that he knows what sizes of units that people want or need to rent. And there's a mix that is popular, and there's a mix that rents, and he feels like this rent mix right here will work. So there's a creek that runs right through here. This crossing required a permit. There was a wetland area. Hate that word, but there was a wetland area that we had to get permitting for, which we did, and installed this pipe and installed that pipe. The main entry to this property is right here. It's gated. You have to have a code to get in. I learned today you have to have the code to get out too, as I waited there thinking the gate was going to go up. You got to have a code to get out. And that'll be the main point of access for this property. This area over here is intended to be used for Couple of things. Number one, it's intended to be used to build this so that we don't destroy what we just built over here, the drive. And it's to be intended to be left there so that if there was a need to get out over here for some reason, he could open this gate. Dwayne could manually open this gate and get in and out, while this one will likely not be coded like this one is over here. This one will likely be just for owner's preference or owner's convenience, or however you want to say that.
So it's not automatic?
We have talked about this one not being automatic for a couple of reasons. For number one, because they're expensive. The automatic gate is very expensive. But number two, it also gives Dwayne, for security reasons,
Yeah.
it's better for him to limit in one place where people can come in and out. So because this creek's here, it entirely separates our detention area. And the photograph we were talking about on the last project of the detention area is this one right here. It is a photograph of that detention area. We can't combine or share detention areas on this project because of the creek, so this one gets its own, this green one right here. He's lucky enough to get to build two of them, so he's got two detention areas. There's a wooded area right here that we are not touching. We're going to leave it a wooded area. And there's a pipeline that runs through a petroleum pipeline that runs through here that we have to stay a certain distance off of for pipelines, rules and regulations tell us we got to stay off of it. So we've stayed off of the pipeline. We've stayed out of the woods. Created our own new detention pond that will outlet into this same creek, and then asking for approval of about 90,000 square feet of 7 buildings in that location. Similar in design and look as the buildings that are there now. That's all I got. Got questions? Answer. Questions?
So you've already pulled a permit to put both of those pipes in
Yes.
along that street? Is
And
that a legal drain?
No.
Yeah. And that's a regulated floodway?
It was regulated because it was.
Okay.
That's the only reason why.
So that you got a delineation
Yep.
permit, okay.
That's where it comes off of Kenny Edmondson across there. That really looked nice after you fixed it. Oh, he was happy with it.
I think you may be talking about up here, right there.
Was there
Yeah.
another one there?
Yeah, I think you're talking about where it came across the road.
That's where the pigs used to be, and they
Yeah.
stopped it up all the time.
Yeah, that's up here. And Dwayne regraded and basically rebuilt that area through here. This one comes across the county road, not at the intersection. The county road intersection is over here, so
Just east of that house.
yes, it's just east of the house that's on the north side of the road. That's where this one comes across right here.
So I guess I do have one more question. The other drive, since it's going to stay, we have that requirement for concrete. I know it's not the entrance, but what we did on the other one was do concrete on the right of way. Is there a pipe under that existing drive to the east? Yeah,
This pipe is there.
not on the roadway. There's no roadside ditch?
There doesn't need to be one at the roadway. It drains away from the road.
Okay,
Because it comes under the county road, literally right there.
okay,
So this is really close to there will be no need for a drive culvert at the road.
okay,
It's all drained into the
okay.
creek.
I would like for it to do like we did within that right of way to be concrete. Like we did on the other end, where you put that new pipe in, it's all concrete because that is within the right of way. And then, that at some point, the town's already taken it in because it's annexed, we'll be required to maintain that road. And I think yes. I think if it's
Did it-
going to stay and it's not just construction access, then it needs to be concrete within that right of way.
Right, and I think it has to be concrete. It can't be asphalt. Because it's right within the right of way.
Thanks, Walt.
Basically, the drive that you built.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think it should be concrete because the other one's concrete.
Yeah.
But I think that
What's the
I
zoning?
think
Because
the
I
code of
think,
ord, it's industrial, it's IL.
so industrial, I believe it's required to be concrete.
Concrete,
That's why
yeah.
we did that.
We did 6 foot.
Yeah.
We did 6 foot.
Yep.
6 inch concrete.
Yep. Perfect, thank you.
Can you explain to me where the landscaping will
So actually you can kind of see it. So this property right here was at one time was zoned commercial, industrial. It was zoned the same as, at one point in time, this property was zoned the same as this. The owner of the property requests to have the property back zoned or down zoned so that they could have a residence here and they live there. So this building here backs up to that residence, and the ordinance would require either a fence or hedgerow or trees to be planted along the common property line between the two. Dwayne, I have not had conversation with the neighbor with this neighbor, but Dwayne has. And so the idea with the landscaping plan now is that we'll plant trees or bushes just in this area right here north of the building. So this is the north end of the building right here. And that's all building. So there's the south end of the building. So we would not plant any trees or bushes in this area right here so that we can maintain it basically. We can mow it. And that this is where the trees and the bushes, those two locations is where the trees and the bushes.
So there's nothing obscuring that building from the adjacent property except a mowed path of grass?
Correct. My understanding is Dwayne's talked to the neighbor about that, and he is okay with this.
You know, I've seen your businesses all around. They're all professional looking. They're nicely done. You do a really good job.
I have talked to Henry to the east, and I believe he's here tonight. And he said that he would prefer it be grass, and we'll let him speak to that. But he told me that he'd prefer it to be grass there versus trees there where it would be difficult to maintain as it grows.
Yeah, I'd be a little concerned about putting trees there because the building's so close to them. Depending on what kind of trees you put in, they're not really screening.
So, and I think the ordinance would allow for that to happen with a fence. And so that, I think the idea is that the building basically becomes the fence.
That's the screening.
Yes, because it doesn't have any windows in it.
One other thing is, if you look at that aerial, you can see there's a lot of, that lot next to them to the east is pretty heavily, say wooded, but there's quite a few trees on there. And I know that's not on this site, so there's no protection there, but I think that probably does add a little bit of comfort to the adjoining property owner, that there is quite a bit of foliage.
And that building's pretty far off the road to begin with. You know,
Yeah,
it's
the
beyond-
residents.
yeah.
I would guess it is about 3/4 of the way back. Probably right in here if I was guessing.
And then it probably starts about 300 feet from the road.
Yeah.
Just by looking at the scale in the drawing.
So are your plans to start building on that before you finish those others in the other?
This section here, the full lot that we've got drawn front end back now are all large storage, vehicle, RV storage. And so there's some different mixes in there, which we don't have any 12 by 30s, which have been really super popular. And we can't build them on the front, so there's about, the smaller buildings in here are 12 by 30s, which kind of makes our mix complete. So we will build probably, we're starting the building in the front on phase 1 next Monday, or they're supposed to. And I'm going to, that one. And then I think that probably the goal would be is to build about 4 of them buildings as soon as we get the lot done. And as soon as we can get them contracted.
Which would happen as soon as the weather breaks. you drove by there today or recently, you will see about right here a pretty massive pile of stone, which it has been growing there for two reasons. So number one, because stone now is difficult to come by. They actually run out, and the price of stone is going up. So this is in anticipation of getting the stone at a reduced rate, knowing that he's going to need a lot of it. So he's been stockpiling it. It's a
I
big-
actually
big
did go
pile.
by there today.
You did? Did you see the pile?
I did.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's why it's
And
there.
that's what it goes, when we were talking about it the last time. You were gonna use this entrance down here, just one entrance in, and when I saw that, I thought, well, only one entrance. So I came back and opened my packet and read it again.
There's 800 triaxle loads of stone going in, if I understand things right. That means 800, that means 800 has to leave. And that would just make us limestone dust in our other in the other going through them buildings. And we did that when we built the top over at 200 South. And we chose to keep away from that if we could. So that'll mean all the stone and everything will be hauled in and out of that secondary drive.
They call that experience. He's learned what works, or better yet, what doesn't work.
What about lighting in the second phase?
So lighting will all be on the buildings. The lights will be interior facing, like, for example, there'll be lights on the face of this about every 50 feet. Town has a regulation on the type of light that it has to be downward facing, a light that's shielded so that the light faces down and not out. And that's what would be on the face of these buildings. I think did one give you?
Yeah, we've got drawings on.
Yeah, he dropped them off, I think it was last Thursday. So, yeah, they've
Somewhere
submitted
around here.
everything. It's basically the same thing that's on the, and it does comply, because they're downlit, full cut off.
There's no lights shining off the property. They're all shining into the property.
It's the same as you put on the others, isn't
It is the same.
it? Any other questions? If not, since this is a public hearing, I will open it up for the public. If anyone has anything they want to say, please come to the mic and give your name and address and have your say.
One of the things that they did in the review is they moved this pond to the north and constructed a swale along the south side and into that ditch so that this wooded area right here would have a drainage outlet, because essentially what they've done is they filled this area so they could get it high enough to put the water into this pond and then get the drainage out. And that essentially bottlenecked water into this woods, because the woods was lower, and the reason it was a woods is because it was too flat to drain. So by moving that up and revising their grading plan, they put a swale along here so that at some point, if it's needed or whatever, the water in this woods would build up and actually flow out rather than flowing onto the neighbor. So just essentially for the record, they did provide a drainage outlet for that woods and didn't bottleneck the water there the way the original plan had provided.
Okay, I will now open this to the public. If anybody has anything to say, please come up and give your name and address.
My name is Henry Pearson. I live at 1851 East County Road 75 South. Basically, the property just to the east of where I have no objections with them not putting trees. I got enough trees already on my property, which sort of, serves almost as a buffer on both the east, and the west. I mean, because there's a long line of trees along the entire side except for sections. You know, one thing I'm not sure you're aware of, during part of that property, when there's a lot of drainage stops. Yeah, and it's close to where the house used to be. There used to be a house on that property that, you know, house and an outbuilding, both of which they burned down for the fire department use it for their exercise. Finally got all the stuff out there. What's wound up happening during the middle of that property, a lot of times if there's a lot of rain, you know, it stays there. Kind of moist. I have problems on my property if it rains too much. All the water will just stay there. I think it's the underlying of the soil there. Like I said, I have no problems with trees because we've got enough trees out there. All I have to say.
That pipeline goes behind your house.
Yeah, it's at the back, pretty much going into the field of the adjoining 100 feet or so. Any corner of his property, probably right into the field back. It's up to you to figure out. You could decide.
Anybody else? I will close the public portion of the meeting. Anybody think of any other questions to ask?
I have one other question. I know we talked about this, but I can't remember. The house that's on this property? Yeah.
This one in front?
Yeah, did we say something about when that, or if that goes away, or it'll be torn down once you,
Right.
what did we come up with on that house?
Well, what they did is they got the landscape requirement not waived, but delayed between phase one. He owns it and he rents it. So it was for like 5 years.
Okay. I must have missed that
To
meeting.
allow it to be
Okay.
there.
Okay. I
Mission
just wanted to make
eventually-
sure that that was clear because I must have missed that meeting, so my apologies.
So the mission eventually, assuming this phase goes like first phase is gone, is that we'll backfill this with other buildings.
Okay.
And the house will go away eventually. In the meantime, you got variance, board of zoning appeals for it to stay.
Perfect.
Our variance at the BZA was to either plat the house within 5 years and sell, so we could sell that off, or to demolition the house. So right now, we're in limbo on what we're gonna do.
We're not in limbo, he's pressuring me to come up with a plan for it. Make no mistake about it.
That's all I have.
That's it? Okay. Here's what we have. Our action on this site plan is to approve the site plan, deny the site plan, approve the site plan with conditions.
Was it something with the driveway concrete?
One.
So I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the plan with condition of the asphalt, or I'm sorry, concrete drive in the construction entrance. On the right of way, yes.
And should we also say that this landscaping idea is acceptable, Lisa? Should we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With acceptable landscaping.
We have a motion, do I hear a second? have a motion and a second to approve the site plan with the condition of the concrete drive right-of-way, road right-of-way. Acceptable. Okay. Barry?
Mr. Pato? Aye. Ms. Rimpert?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer?
Aye.
Sheets?
Aye.
I vote aye as well, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Why you don't run off? I'd like to have a word with you.
Did you adjourn?
That's it. You got anything? No. No? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Meeting?
We have a motion, now we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.